Today, what we're going to be talking about is camp and what camp looks like in 2020. My name is Jesse. I'm the camp director. Some of you might recognize me if you have been out in recent years. We're really excited to get rolling here soon. Come Sunday, we're having summer camp begin. Right now, we have day camp already started. We have family camp going on, and everyone's having a lot of fun. We're doing things a little bit differently because we want to stay safe because of COVID and the coronavirus. We want to make sure that we're doing things safely and we're doing things the right way. So a lot of what this talk is going to be is about how camp looks a little different this year. Now, you probably already saw on the main screen, but as we're going, if you could please stay on mute, just so it doesn't talk over me when I'm trying to give a point. That way, you can use that chat bar for any of your questions. If you don't know where the chat bar is located, typically on most setups, it's right at the bottom, little toolbar, and you can click on that and put questions through as we're going. We have people that'll answer your questions right on there. If you don't get your question answered today, or you come up with a question after our meeting's all done, you can feel free to go ahead and send that question to me. My email is jwells@ymcastorecamps.org. Anyway, let's get rolling. I've got a little agenda here, and it kind of runs through camp and gives you the basics on how 2020 is going to just look slightly different. We're going to start with what check-in will look like. So when you normally come to camp, you come into camp and you can bring your whole family, and the whole family can walk through Malachi, and it's going to look a little different this year. We want to keep the amount of people going through Malachi Dining Hall to a minimum. And we're going to have, and I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, but we're going to actually have everyone go through Malachi because we've reduced our capacities in our cabins pretty considerably. It just makes sense to have everything run from North Center. And it makes sense if everything's running from North Center to have everyone check in from the same place. So we're going to do that at Malachi Dining Hall. Check-in is Sundays, depending on the session that you are registered for. It'll be that Sunday, and it's from 2 to 4 p.m. We're going to ask that only one adult, one parent or guardian, comes with the campers to get them into the door. And I know that's a little bit of a change. Sometimes it's mom, dad, your guardian, your grandma, your grandpa. Sometimes a lot of people come. We're going to ask that it's just one person this time to keep down on that foot traffic going through. And while you come through Malachi Dining Hall, we're also going to ask that you wear a mask. This is the same face coverings that you've probably been using when you have gone out to the grocery store, or if you've gone out at all since this whole thing started. You might wear a mask sometimes. I like to use these guys. They call this a buff. And it's pretty easy to just have this on your face and then be able to pull it down when you don't need it. And I kind of wear one of these all day, and then I don't lose it because sometimes I'm a little forgetful and I'll put things down in a place and then I forget them. And I find that sometimes summer campers are a little like me and they can lose things pretty easy. So I wear mine like a necklace. Oh, look, I got people putting masks on already. They're showing me theirs. I wear mine whenever I need to, and then I pull it down. And we'll talk a little bit about when we need to wear masks as well. But one of those times is when we're going in through check-in. And during check-in, we're also going to try and keep our distance from other family units. You're going to see that there's dots inside of Malachi that help us know how far 6 feet is. And that's probably similar to some of the grocery stores that you've seen around, or some of the gas stations. Those markers help us know where 6 feet is. And we're going to try and keep 6 feet apart from everyone. There is one extra form that was probably sent to you if you registered at least 3 weeks ago. I haven't sent it out recently. I should probably do that again tomorrow, but it's also available on our website, ymcastorecamps.org. You can go to the resources tab, and there you'll find our COVID waiver. And it basically just describes that there's a little extra risk to camp this year, and we want to make sure that you're aware of it. So that COVID waiver is available on the resources tab. As far as check-in's it's gonna be laid out a little bit different. It's going to be, you know, a nice line going through and everyone's spread out, and things might go a little bit slower too. So just be prepared for that. If you're coming out to store camps and you bring a pet with you, they might spend some extra time in the car. So you wanna make sure that you have that air conditioning on. If you have any other family members that are coming, they won't be able to come inside of Malachi, so they might wanna go for a drive somewhere. And then come back, as opposed to waiting in the car all that time. Medications, as always, just a normal reminder here. Medication, anything that you bring that you're hoping that your child can take, or you as a camper, you might take a multivitamin, you might take something every day that you're very used to. We just wanna make sure that's in the right container, meaning the container it came in, and if it's a prescription, it needs to have the prescription on the container as well. If it's something like melatonin, something you take to go to sleep, or even an essential oil, we just want to make sure it's in the right container. So make sure it's all in there, and if it's in a Ziploc bag, that's even better with the camper's full name on it. Yeah. Now, while at camp, things are going to be a little different as well. So when you get through check-in, you're not going to walk to the cabin with your family member or your guardian. You're going to go to the cabin with one of our staff. And I know that's a little different, but you'll say your goodbyes at Malachi, and then you get to be a camper all on your own and head to your cabin, where you're going to meet the rest of your cabin group. And that cabin group is going to be really important for you for 2020, for this summer, because they're going to be like your family through the whole summer. You're going to travel around with that cabin group. And the good news is that means you're actually going to be able to do a little bit more at camp. For you returning campers, you might remember that when you get a little older at camp, you can sign up for what we call skill clinics. Instead of doing skill clinics this year, we're going to have almost a sampler platter of almost everything we do at camp. And you're going to get to do almost all of it at camp while you're in your cabin group. So instead of going to one thing every day for 4 days, you're going to go and do a whole bunch more things all at once. And one of the things that changes is trail rides and horse lessons. Instead of buying a trail ride or signing up and buying horse lessons, everyone's going to go to the barn. So everyone gets a chance to go to the barn, and weather permitting, there will be a riding experience when you do that. So you'll be able to go and check out the horses, and you won't have to worry about being signed up for a trail ride or signed up for a horse lesson. And we're not gonna charge anything for that. So there's no cost to that, which is a little different than before. When campers will be asked to wear masks. So masks are important while we're here, but we've kind of designed camp to where masks won't be used very often. We want you to be comfortable at camp, and that's why we have you traveling in your cabin group, because when you're in your cabin group and you're distanced from other cabin groups, so at least 6 feet away, you don't have to wear your mask. That's like your family while you're here at camp. You don't have to wear your mask around them. You can play games with them. You can come into contact with them. But when you're around another cabin group and you're less than 6 feet away, or you're inside, we're gonna wear the masks again. And it's no big deal. We just pop them on and we do the activity, or we move through a building. There might be really bad weather and we all end up in one building for a little while, and we just wear our masks, and it's no big deal. But other than that, when you're sleeping, you don't have to wear a mask. When you're in your cabin with your cabin group, you don't have to wear your mask. When you're outside doing any of the activities, swimming, you don't have to wear a mask. So all those things are mask-free activities. We just want to make sure that you have these for when you come, because there will be times when you might need to put those on. Sleeping arrangements are going to be slightly different. We're not going to have as many kids in a cabin. So where some of you might have been used to having almost 10 to 12 kids in your cabin. It's going to be a little less than that so that we can give space between kids in cabins. And when kids sleep, we're going to have, so where normally bunks would be laid out like this, like one kid's head is here, one kid's on the bottom bunk, and they're down here. We're actually going to flip it. And we're going to try and put a bunk in between each cabin too. And then when people sleep head to foot apart, they have more space between them. So if there's a cough or anything at night, we help prevent any of that spread of germs. And that's a big thing that we're doing here at camp this summer. We're going to try and prevent a lot of germs. So there's going to be a lot of hand washing. There's going to be a lot of hand sanitizing. And there's going to be a lot of cleaning. And we're all going to try and help and pitch in with that so that we can do camp safely. Because we want to make sure that although we're having fun and although we're doing things that we maybe haven't done in a while because we've been cooped up inside, that we're doing it safely. So we're going to make sure that we're washing hands, we're sanitizing, and we're cleaning after we come to a program and before we start a program too, so that we help eliminate those germs. There are 2 programs that I unfortunately have to tell you that we can't run this summer. The High Adventure course, where you go up and you climb through the whole High Adventure course. Unfortunately, there's not a good way to sanitize that in between each use. So unfortunately, that we won't be able to run that this year. And then the only other program that we unfortunately can't run is the sailing program. And that's for the same reason. There's just not a good way to sanitize the boats in between use. And usually when we're using them, we have 3 people that aren't normally in the same cabin and they're in the boat together and they're pretty close. So unfortunately, we did make the call that those 2 programs can't run, but just about everything else we're good to go with. So the usual things that you're used to seeing, you get to do at camp. And all those things are still waiting for you, and they haven't been getting done for a little while, and they're excited to have kids back on camp because, man, the basketball court looks awful lonely. The swimming area looks awful lonely, and it needs you guys back there to wake it back up. Let's see. The last thing that I have on here is about cabin mate requests. And I know a lot of you are used to having 10 to 12 kids in your cabin, and that's across all of camp. We have that many kids in a cabin, which means that we can get a lot of cabin mate requests done. This year, we are still taking cabin mate requests very seriously. So those are the people that you request to be in your cabin, and we're trying very, very hard to make those cabin requests happen. But because we have a lower capacity, we have less kids in a cabin, we aren't going to guarantee any cabin requests. That doesn't mean that just you put your friend on and now you're not going to be able to see your friend. It just means that we're going to try really, really hard, but we can't make the same guarantee that we did before. So hopefully it still happens, but again, it's no guarantee. I believe that's all I have on here. I do see a couple questions popping up about the trading post. We're not planning on running the trading post for most times during the summer. So if you have camp bank money in right now, it can be used toward a t-shirt when you're arriving at camp. But and there may be a time when we end up getting the trading post open, but we can't find a way to do that right now that works for everyone. An idea of how many kids in a cabin. We're going to be under 10 in a cabin, well under 10. Most cabins right now are about 6 kids in a cabin. I know there's going to be a lot more questions here in a moment, and I know I breezed through a lot of that pretty quick. So,
hey, Jesse, Brian,
yes.
checking in from the other side of camp here. I saw a great question of, do campers need to wear face masks at opening and closing Campfire? We have actually changed the location of opening and closing Campfire and created circle painted areas for cabins to sit in in the Malachi field, much like you would see in a public park right now or a city park. So no, they will not have to wear masks at opening and closing Campfire. I also saw a question about, should we label our masks? Yes, that would make it very easy for your camper. We're super pro labeling masks. Just to touch on that trading post question, we won't have trading post time during the week like you would normally pop in for an activity rotation through the trading post. We will be trying to use that window for some sales during check-in if we can make that happen.
Yeah, and as Brian was talking there, I see that someone's a little confused on the sleeping arrangements. So the sleeping arrangements in a cabin, where it makes sense and where we can do it, we'll have one kid on each bunk, one camper on each bunk, and they can pick top or bottom. But we're going to try and keep some space in between them, so it would be head to foot. So where most campers would be all laid out the same way, we're going to try and get some campers to sleep the other way, and then it'll switch that way. So it'll be head to foot each time, and that way our faces are a little farther away from each other, so that cough, sneezing and breathing, those germs stay a little farther away. Next question I see on here is how food and eating will go. Food and eating, that's a really important question. The dining hall is a place of life and fun at camp. And I'll tell you what, we ran staff training, and we had a lot of fun still in the dining hall. We still did chants, we still did singing, but we are going to try to eliminate having as many people in the dining hall, which will, I think, actually be a pretty pleasant thing, because sometimes that dining hall gets pretty crowded. So we're having some split meals where all of youth camp, at least starting for this session, all of youth camp will eat together. And there'll be a little bit more space there because we've lowered our capacities by quite a bit. And then teen camps will eat after that. So they'll have some space in between them, and we're going to sanitize everything as we go through. The other important part there is usually we eat family style, to where a tray of food comes out on a big bowl, and everyone passes it back and forth, and they take their share. Of course, when we eat family style, we're also sharing utensils. We're holding the food right next to us and then passing it on to another person. So again, to reduce the spread of those germs, we're going to have individual plates. So the plates are going to be made up by our kitchen team, and then the campers will go through the line in the indoor, and then gather their food, exit out the outdoor, and then head back to their table all together with their cabin, but holding their plate of food, and then going back and eating that way. And we'll call for seconds just like before, except everyone will go up that 1 second from that table, and they'll go and get some more food with a brand new fresh plate. Let's see.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. You're doing a great job answering some of these questions. I saw a great question from Laura about hand washing stations and sanitizing. So that's going to obviously be a very big thing here. We've installed 3 outdoor sinks outside of Malachi. So before anybody enters Malachi, they need to wash their hands with soap before they sit down for any of the meals. Every activity area has hand sanitizer or an indoor bathroom that they can be used before and after. And we will be encouraging, whenever we leave a program area, to hit the hand sanitizer again. So we've built some portable hand sanitizer stations and put them at places that wouldn't normally have water, like your basketball court or your archery range or your playground. So every activity area will have hand sanitizer or running water with soap.
Great. Yeah. I see some other questions on here. Will we find out if our cabin mate requests were honored before we come to camp? This year especially, we are getting changes up to the last minute. We wanted to be as flexible as we could for our families. So we haven't been able to really lock down even where kids are at in a cabin right now, because there's so many changes coming through, and we were able to get children off of wait lists. So you won't find out before you come to camp. If you would like to call camp, I can give you an idea of where they are right now. But again, it's not even guaranteed that they'll stay there. So unfortunately, I can't give you solid information on that right now.
Had a
Will
great
people?
question from a first-time camper. Are we allowed to bring books? Yes, we are. We highly encourage you bringing books. And yes, we'll be wearing face masks in the dining hall right up until the time when we get our food, and then we'll take off the face masks.
It looks like another question here was, will people need masks for eating food in the dining area? That would be awful hard, right? You know, you might have to cut a hole in there, and then that defeats the purpose. So when you're actually at your table, you won't have to wear the mask. We're going to ask that it stays on while you're waiting to get your food, because that just helps prevent it. So I'm sitting here, I'm waiting. Oh, I got called to get food. I go and get my food and sit down, and then I can take the mask off and of course eat without the mask on. Just like if you're in arts and crafts and there's another cabin that happens to come through, we would try and wear the mask at that point. You know, if another cabin is sharing an area, which we're going to try and eliminate as much as possible. But if you're wearing your mask and you have to drink water, that's okay. It's okay to bring down your mask for a second, get a drink of water, and then put it back up. You know, no one's going to yell at you. No one's going to scold you. It's just one of those things that we're going to really encourage this year to help eliminate the spread of germs. Can you bring stuffed animals? You can bring all the normal things that you want to bring that make you feel comfortable. Books, stuffed animals, no electronics, as always. We're trying to get away from those things. I bet you guys have had a fair share of electronics recently. So we're trying to get away from those, but drawing stuff, stuffed animals, yep, bring all those things that aren't electronics that make you happy while you're at camp. That's totally fine. What happens if a child gets homesick? Also, is there a list of things to bring on the website? There is a list of things to bring on the website under the resources tab. There is a packing list there on the website. If your child is coming in next Sunday, or this Sunday, I should say, that packing list was just sent to you as well. And another one will go out for the Sunday after that, and then on and on and on. As far as homesickness is a really normal thing that happens at camp. Our staff are trained to help make those kids feel comfortable, and they're usually their first night is when that pops up, and we like to redirect them and talk to them about the happy things, the fun things that are going to happen in the morning. And sometimes it's one of those things that they just have to get through that first night. But if it lasted into a couple nights and they're really having a hard time of it, we might give you a call, not with the camper, but give you a call and let you be aware of it and see if there's some techniques that work at home. Can I bring pride to things? Yes, it's okay to bring pride things. Feel free. Can I bring paint? I would recommend not bringing paint, because paint in a bag at camp, if it busts open, you know, something like that, it might get all smashed up. It might, you know, ruin some things. Great question here. What if someone comes down with COVID at camp? So that's why we're doing the cohort thing. That's why we're traveling in our cabin groups. Basically what we have is a pre-screening that we do for everyone. As they come in to check-in, they're going to get screened for symptoms. They're going to get their temperature taken. And that pre-screening has some questions that extend out 14 days prior. Now, the next screenings that they get will be the next day. They'll have it at breakfast and they'll have it at dinner. And those, that's more of just a temperature check, and we ask if they have any symptoms, headache, you know, that cough, anything like that. We run through those symptoms real quick, and we're doing that for every camper and every staff member. If we have a temperature over 100, or a combination of two symptoms, or a symptom that's unexplained, they get a better check by our health officer. If at any point they have a temperature over 100, or they have a combination of two symptoms, that camper or staff member would have to be evaluated by a medical professional. So we would ask for a pickup at that point. For all the other kids in their cohort or any other people that would have come in contact with them based on their schedule, we'd be reaching out with that information that there was a possible case, and then that family would be able to make a decision from there. Not every kid who gets a cough and shortness of breath, you know, has coronavirus or COVID. But we're going to ask that they get checked by a medical professional, and then we'll give you that knowledge that there was a suspected case. Question, do campers have to carry all of their bags to the cabin? No is the answer to that. We'll have staff helping them out with that, and we'll have the normal carts that we use for that. But unfortunately, parents won't be allowed past Malachi, and that's to prevent that, that contact, because if you were to go to that cabin group, then we have extra contact in that cabin group, and that's what we're trying to prevent this year. Well, friends, I think questions are starting to slow down. Brian, if you saw anything, feel free to hop in. No, I do see a couple more that just popped through. I'll answer these real quick, and then if there are any other questions after this, feel free to email them to me. I know this didn't explain absolutely everything, but we also have our policies and procedures that are online on ymcastorcamps.org. You can check that out. Or you can feel free to look at any of the other materials that we have posted. So, yep, Derek answered one. Do we need the COVID screening form at check-in? It would be great if you brought it at check-in. It saves some time if you bring that check-in, just like the camper release, just like the health form. It definitely helps if those things are already done. If you don't have it done, there will be forms there. The weekend camp out, we are not planning on doing, just because we need tents for that, and tents all of a sudden become kids really close to each other. Are we allowed to read after lights out just to get tired? Yes, you can read and be quiet in your own bed, but at a certain point, the counselor is going to tell you to turn off your flashlight so that you can get sleep, because sometimes even reading keeps us up. All right. Well, thank you all. Derek is giving the information that this is going to be posted on our YouTube page. So if you missed anything, or if you got in late, feel free to check it out on our YouTube page, and you can update yourself through there.